Hello, hello, Cheryl. Welcome to the Mentally About Us podcast. I'm so happy to have you today.
Glad to be here. I'm really excited about our conversation.
Me too. And you seem very, very sweet. Even though we talked for a good 2 seconds. I'm excited to talk to you today and go from hi, nice to meet you to let's talk about your trauma.
Yeah, let's just jump right in.
Yeah, I mean, that's just how it is for every Mentally About Us episode. So, as you know, since you listen to the podcast, we always like to start out going deep into your childhood and your past. And today we are going to be talking about your childhood as well as how you had to cope with it and be kind of like being like perfect or just kind of being like somebody else than how you feel like on the inside. So I like to definitely correlate your childhood with that. So let's get into your childhood first. Like, how was your childhood like? How was the environment growing up?
So, from the outside, everybody saw this perfect family, right? Mom,
Yeah.
dad, kids, animals, the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad, before I was born, systematically planned on possessing me in every way, sexually, psychologically, physically, and it was really highly planned. He was a naval officer who
Mm-hmm.
trained John McCain, who went off to be a prisoner of war and said my dad was the reason he survived. And I got to survive a childhood for 18 years of just constant abuse and control. Yeah, look at your face. So
That's
it
just my
was,
listening face.
yeah, it was, and nobody could know. Even maybe my mother knew. I still can't figure that out. But, it was, let's be quiet. Oh, if you're not quiet, I'm going to put a pillow over your face and suffocate you until you pass out. I mean, it
Mm-hmm.
was if you're not a good girl, we're going to beat your brother. Or so, there was just a lot of abuse, but I was really good at surviving,
Mm-hmm.
departmentalizing. I think partly because, well, I know music saved me, but I also think it's because I never knew any different. I mean, I literally, from birth, I was this was going to be a manipulation of how I thought, how I acted, how I looked. And so I didn't know anything different,
Mm-hmm.
but I knew whatever was going on was not right. And so I fought it. I joke about in my book and to people is I'm a fighter. I'm a Leo and I was born the year of the tiger. So
Mm-hmm.
I joke about, well, if my dad had looked at my horoscope or the Chinese New Year calendar, he wouldn't have even bothered with me. But, childhood was hard because I had to be one person going through high school or school, and I was very sick. I had UTIs. I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't couldn't tell people how my migraines were so debilitating because all of this cortisol and trauma was causing so much physical
Mm-hmm.
problems. I did tell a few people and they totally ignored me or told me to pray about it or,
I'll pray about
live
it.
with it. That whole, well, he can be forgiven, go home and forgive him. And, it was just everything around me. I have friends now that I had then in high school and junior high who said that they only saw someone like floating down. One of my friends said, "You were like an angel just floating down the hallway." I grew up in Hawaii, so it was outdoor hallway. Maybe the wind took me, I don't know. But you know, that's not what was going on inside. I was really just surviving day by day, hour by hour. And the sad part is, besides the physical part, is that I was surviving so much I didn't really, I couldn't read really until I went to college. It's really kind of hysterical. I went to a really great university, but I went because I could sing, because I was a music major.
Mm-hmm.
I could read anything, a score. I can even read a huge score of a whole symphony in my head. I can hear the music. But a book, I don't know. So that I wrote a book is really like crazy. But it was a secret for a long time. And I didn't want it to be a secret.
Yeah.
But it cost a lot physically and mentally, and my whole childhood was stolen. I
Yeah.
didn't have one. And people are say to me, like my husband, "Oh, I wish I was young again. I wish I would." I don't have any amount in me that says, "Oh, I want to be a kid again." That would never, ever, ever, ever. I just couldn't wait to be a grown up and be away from all that.
Yeah. And I can tell, but so far, based off this conversation that we're having, the relief that you feel. and that you now like you went from not being able to talk about it to now like I can, and I'm gonna get on a podcast and everyone's gonna know because that's okay.
Yeah,
So I'm like
it is.
seeing, yeah. So like as we're talking, I can tell that you're like, I'm excited to talk about this because I've been waiting my whole life for this.
Right. So, I mean, my book's name is Piece by Piece because it wasn't like one thing happened and I could talk about it on your
Mhm.
podcast, right? It was piece by piece by piece by piece. I kept trying to build and he kept just knocking it all down. And it wasn't just him. Life just can be a really piece of shit sometimes.
Yeah.
Sorry, but you know
It's
that.
life.
I've heard your podcasts and sometimes, all of those things. I've had friends commit suicide. My son had a tumor the size of a softball in his skull. So it wasn't just the trauma. I've had trauma my whole life, but
Mhm.
being able to be an adult and be in control of it just a little bit
Yeah.
was what that's all I could dream of until I was 18. And then I wasn't totally away from it. It took a while. But now I'm 63 years old and probably not as badass as you, but my students think I'm pretty badass. And so it's really great to be 63 and finally not hide from my husband and my children and say in my book, hey, this is me, from my students, from
Huh.
people who've known me for 50 years. This is what happened to me. And it doesn't define me, but gosh, it's part of me. And it's why you might have seen me get triggered when someone was just an asshole to kids, or it might be
Mhm.
why I was overprotective with my children, And so it is a big relief to get all that silence out and be able to talk about it.
I feel like you and my mom would like get along so well because she's like the same way. You guys like the same age too. And like, right before we get on here, I actually am starting a podcast with my mom.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
yeah, we're calling it Cocktails with my mom. And actually, just
Oh,
like the
fun.
last
Can I have
episode.
some? I want some cocktails.
Yeah. We decided like, oh, it's like we kind of like the best conversations with a Cosmo. Like
Yeah.
so we were just like literally just like talking about that. Like so I just like I feel like you guys can relate to each other a lot. Like the whole she would say like the saying of what does it call? Like you're not seen, not heard. Like what that
Well,
saying?
when we grew up, they would say children are seen but not heard. That's what
Yes.
they would say. Boy, that was my house.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like.
It was a military family house, and we were all to be seen and be perfect. I mean, my dad was a top military officer in the Vietnam War. My mother used to dress up like Jacqueline Kennedy and make these matching dresses for us, and we would stand at the pier for hours for the boats and the sailors to stand on the ships, and we were the executive officers' children from the time I can even remember. This is, you have to behave this way, you have to dress this way, you have to talk this way. And you certainly would never say that you were beaten or you were
Mm-hmm.
sexually abused, or no, no, that would just tarnish the family. So yeah, mine was a little, I don't know about your mom's world, but mine was pretty can't be seen but heard. But I've worked with kids your age for 41 years. I have four children who are your age and or close to your age, and I have taught kids who are from, I think when I retired right now, my youngest student would be a sophomore in college.
Mm.
And I kind of, I guess because of what I went through, it's always been so important for me to help your generation get through it better than we got through it.
Mm-hmm. Out of curiosity, could you say my generation? And but I also never mentioned my age, so how old do you think I am?
Well, I heard you say you're Gen X in one of the
Gen X?
no, you're not Gen A
Gen-
because I'm trying to think. Let's see. I don't know all the gens that good. Gen
Are you
Y, is
referring
that
to
what you
Gen
are?
Z?
Yes. Okay. I
Okay,
would say
I'm
you're about
technically,
30.
yeah, you're right. That's good. Yeah, it's like
Yeah.
technically I'm a millennial. Like I'm like on the cusp of being a millennial and
No,
a Gen
no,
Z.
no, no. I have four kids, and two of them are Gen Zs, and two of them are
Hmm.
millennials, and they're so different, right? Because,
I
like
understand both.
you said on your podcast before, your generation doesn't mind talking. That's why you have Mentally Badass Studio, because you don't mind talking about trauma.
Hmm.
you don't mind saying, hey, I have a mental illness.
Mhm.
But if I would have said, even now to my generation, when I'll say to a boss or something, I have PTSD from
Mhm.
childhood trauma, they just go, it's terrible. I've had neighbors call and say, why did you write that book? We don't write those books. We don't talk about those things. But your generation, again, I've been so much part of, I've spent more time with your generation than I have my own generation, being a choral director at a high school for so many years. You're not proud of anything, but you're not scared. It doesn't define you.
Mhm.
Okay, I have a mental illness. I'm going to take care of it. I'm going to
Mhm.
talk about it. It's so different.
Yeah, and you know what it is? It's like we just see how much like pain it can cause people, like, like high rates of suicide or,
Hmm.
and obviously I've had my own demons that I fought. And I think another thing too is I think the internet has a lot to do with this. I mean, I when I was in high school, it was still like not talking about, mental health. It was you're so annoying, like you just want attention, like that's what I grew up in high school.
Hmm.
But then like the social media started getting bigger. I think I got like Instagram when I was a junior, but it's still very different back then. But now, instead of social media just like your friends and posting pictures and this and that, it's like a whole movement where people are using this as their voice. And which I love having on my podcast is because now I have a voice that I didn't have when I was younger. And now
Hmm.
I'm giving that voice, I'm giving a platform, giving that voice, giving that platform
Yeah, you
to
are.
people to have a voice too. And I think the more and more people talk about their stories, it normalizes it. So I'm sure, like, maybe my niece and nephew's generation would be shocked when they get older and be like, wait, this was taboo.
Hmm.
Kind of see what I'm saying? Like, the more and more and
But
more,
but
the
I
more it's
I hope
normalized.
I hope that is the way it is. I hope it is.
Yeah.
My book, they have some chapters. One's called The Sound of Silence, one of the chapters. And the next chapter is Finding My Voice. And the next chapter, so what am I? I'm a baby boomer. So I always thought I had to do it in a book. But I got the book out there and not everybody's reading the book. So now I'm finding the platforms are working, but they're podcasts. Now they're podcasts that people listen to.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm hoping I have grandchildren that are probably your niece and nephew's age, and I'm hoping that this discussion can be just out there. Unfortunately, I hate to tell you, in some of the places in the United States, it's going backwards instead of forwards,
Oh,
or at
yeah.
least that's how I feel.
Oh,
And I fear for
uh-huh.
the little ones. I really
Oh,
fear
yeah.
for them because it's
Mm-hmm.
becoming more conservative, and I don't use that very roughly, but
Mm-hmm.
we don't want to talk about that. We want to pray
Yeah.
about that is becoming bigger. And I
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to negate the idea of prayer, but we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about pedophiles. Pedophiles, my dad was a pedophile. He is a
Mm-hmm.
pedophile. He
Mm-hmm.
never went to jail. He didn't have much accountability. And most of the pedophiles out where they are at don't have accountability because it's taboo to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
My own community will not do a book signing and won't let me be in the library book fair because of the subject matter. That's
Interesting.
not right.
Interesting. So you said your community is pretty much kind of like against what you're like doing, I guess?
I can't say that they're going to say they're against it,
Or just
but
not like,
they don't want to talk about it. They don't
okay.
want to talk about it. There was just a pedophile 10 doors down from my grandchildren's house. He was charged on 5 counts, and the police came out and said, listen, we think that there are more children.
Mm-hmm.
I went to the school district and said, listen, we need to do some preventative work here.
Mm-hmm.
And they just pushed it off and said, oh, go talk to somebody else. I went to the library and said, here, this is a really great book. It's not graphic, it just educates. And they go, oh, they took the book. And when the book fair came, they go, oh, no, you can't come to the book fair. Took it to the local bookstore. Oh, thank you for the book. Oh, but we're not going to have an event or a book signing for you because of the subject matter.
Mm,
So we're still backwards. I mean, this is a
yeah.
cool podcast, but this is still a problem because
Yeah.
pedophiles are going to keep doing what they do until we make it so that the world says, no, 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 we know what's going on. This has got to stop.
It's kind of like one foot in and one foot out. It's like, okay, we'll accept your book, but we don't want you to come first. And it's like, it's like, it's kind of like they're not like, I feel like in the back of their head, they're like, okay, this is probably, yes, the right thing to do, but we're too scared to go fully in.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Probably.
There's a lot of
But
fear,
it's
a
it's
lot of
it's
fear
very
here.
hurtful. Yeah, there is a
Yeah.
lot of fear. And I had, and I'll be, and I'm not this way on most podcasts, but I know that you're very transparent and you really talk about things. So I'm going to talk about it. I had 3 book clubs set up. I had 4 book signings, various places in the United States, Hawaii, San Diego. And since the book has come out, and it won awards, so somebody thinks it's good,
That's cool. Congrats.
right? Well, all of them just backed off and went, no, no, now we know what the subject matter's about. No. Well, but if you don't educate yourself and you don't talk about it, we can't stop it. So what
Mm-hmm.
does that mean? I don't know what that means. Does that mean that there are a lot of people out there who are silently, quietly pedophiles who don't want this out? I don't know, but it's just unbelievable.
You know what it is? My opinion is, I mean, it can be either or. It could be low key pedophiles, hopefully not, or people don't like to take the time or energy to learn, to be educated, you know? And the problem is, it's if it doesn't affect them, they don't care. That's the unfortunate mindset that a lot of people have. And I talked about like I don't think this episode came out yet, but oh, sorry, I'm like losing my train of thought. Oh my god, I had like a great idea and I completely like it just went the other way. Wow, okay, thank God for
Well, what I
editing.
know about you, Justine, is that you educate yourself on mental health issues.
Yeah.
You go far and above. And we need to do that because this is not an uncle that we're going to put in a hospital and forget about, which is
Mhm.
what happened 50 years ago when I was little, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't something that we'd say, shh, it's a secret. Right? We can't. And so
Mhm.
you're a young person that educate yourself. You have a podcast, you're trying to educate. My book is trying to educate people.
Mhm.
We have to keep trying. I think you're doing a really good job. What
I
I've heard,
appreciate that.
yeah.
And I mostly like I mean before I started the podcast, I of course did my, learning and such. I did go to school for psychology as well. So I started with traditional education, but I do get a bulk of my learnings from my guest. I've interviewed like 100 people by now.
Hmm.
And I've interviewed like experts. I had like therapists, I've had thought like really like leaders, thought leaders, yes, what they call them. And so I learned a lot from them, which is nice. It'd be cool if like, hey everyone, get like a podcast is the best way to like learn, the fastest way to learn, right?
It probably is. It's why you probably have
Yeah.
so many followers.
And books as well. I mean, you wrote one. So, can you tell me cuz it's like it's really making me like interested. I mean, you mentioned a little bit about your childhood, but I guess can you give us a little bit of an example of I guess like a not like a theme, but I guess an example of something that people can take from your book and
Yeah. So most of the books that are about sexual abuses and trauma as a child are very, very dark. We know the Epstein books that have come out and they're
yeah.
#1 on the bestseller list. They're very, very dark and they're very graphic.
Mhm.
My book is not graphic. My book has 4 parts. The first part describes what it's like to be me. In other
Mhm.
words, what's hypervigilance like? What
Mhm.
is the physical costs of PTSD and that kind of trauma? What is it like when you're hearing everybody talk about you behind your back and you can hear it because you're hypervigilant
Mm.
or you're triggering? What is that like? The second
Mhm.
is what was growing up like? How did you survive in that house specifically? The third
Mhm.
part is how I broke away. What did I do? What were the situations and what helped me
Mhm.
know who I was, that I was strong enough and who supported me to break away? And then as I got older, what did I do? I do legislative work. I helped pass laws. I do advocacy work. I won a large settlement against my father,
Mhm.
and I used that money to help other children and organizations. I call it my blood money, is what I call it.
Wait, why blood money?
Well, I think I call it blood money because I don't use it for myself. I use it for other people, and I got it because of the pain and the suffering that I went through.
Okay. I thought
So
okay.
So because it was pain and suffering, I use it. It makes him mad. He's still alive. And I don't really talk to him, but he finds out about things. So he'll find out that I supported a podcast called No Child Should Hurt. And he was so angry. My money shouldn't go for that. I'm like, not your money, right?
Yeah.
The law said that you broke it and you needed to pay me for pain and suffering, and this helps my pain and suffering. So blood money to me is like money that I got out of pain and suffering.
Okay. Okay, that totally makes sense. I think because in my head when I heard the words blood money, I thought it's like I don't know if the word it was if it was called blood money, but people current would say I guess the best way what people would compare about it modern day is that people say like OnlyFans money is like blood money. I mean, I don't care what they do; they can do whatever they want. But like that's what people would call it because of
Okay.
their because there's like creepy guys and only I mean you know what OnlyFans is, right?
No,
Oh
I'm
shoot!
sorry.
Oh my God! Okay,
I'm like, okay. So I
okay.
think
I
the
should probably tell you what it
definition of
is.
the word, yeah, yeah.
Okay, I think I should tell you what OnlyFans is then. So OnlyFans pretty much is modern day like porn. Generation, I try to keep to like not judging people and how they make their money, but also I'm not really crazy how my generation is normalizing it.
Hmm.
So like OnlyFans, the website started out originally as just like if someone's let's say a YouTuber and they can sell like a subscription or whatever, like it's just like a way for fans to support their favorite like
I see.
content. Yeah. But then the thing is with OnlyFans, they don't have like certain filters, restrictions and things like
Mm,
that. Like
I see.
you can't be posting inappropriate things or you get taken down. So it doesn't
Hmm.
have that on there. So
Hmm.
people thought that it's a great idea to
Do
do things like
things.
that. And then of course naturally it attracts people and they pay their money like subscription. Like it's literally a subscription model.
My. Okay.
And yeah, so and it's yeah, so a lot of girls would get really rich. So just imagine like social media.
So that, yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
Understand exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
And it kind of goes back to why I advocate for what I do.
Mhm.
And I'm not judging girls who want a lot of money and do
Right.
that.
Yeah.
But we know statistically and research wise that 1 in 5 girls in the United States are sexually abused under the age of 18.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's traumatizing whether it's one time or all of your life. And if you're traumatized, and there are 1 in 5 girls who are traumatized by that, it desensitizes to be able to do that to make money. And I
Mhm. Yeah.
I think blood money is a perfect name for it. I think even more now because I was traumatized and normalcy was taken away. I don't know what it is to be normal.
There's no
Even
such thing
even
as normal.
yeah, what is
I don't
normal?
believe. Yeah, I don't believe. I actually had a guess that we think we like that was a big part of our conversation. Where we're like, what is normal?
Yeah. Well, I don't know that we're all normal, but I have a son who is your age. He's 30 years old, and he's also a psychologist, social worker, believe it or not. And we were having this discussion, and um, and I know you know the statistic, but people who've gone through trauma like me, 80% of them have a 20-year less longevity than other people.
Yeah, I've
And I
heard
went to
that.
my doctor and I said, "Why is that? I'm 63. How did I get here?" And she goes,
Hmm.
"Well, it's kind of skewed." She goes, "Because most of those people self-medicate. They either
Mm.
self-harm and they kill themselves, or they
Hmm.
self-medicate with alcohol or workaholics or drugs, and they kill themselves slowly. And
Hmm.
so that's skewed. We don't know how long you have. And so I think he said to me, "Mom, you're an outlier." He used the word outlier yesterday. And I said, "What do you mean I'm an outlier?" He goes, "Because everybody else who's gone through what you have don't doesn't have this life like you
Mm.
have. So, anyways, I don't think there is normal, but I definitely think I'm an outlier from normal. And I
Yeah.
think most people want to be normal. I could really get into this, but I think people go to church because church tells them what to do, how to think, how to be, and
Yeah.
it's very comfortable. And then you can be normal.
Yeah. No, I totally get where you're coming from on that. It's like I have like mixed feelings about okay, actually you have a good point on that. For me personally, I do believe in God and all of that, but I'm not a person that you'll see me like reading a Bible every day.
Hmm.
So, and like the reason of that is, as you said, I feel like the Bible is like tells you what to do,
Hmm.
tells you how to think, and and like I said, that's just my opinion. I have a lot of friends who are Christians, and I love them, and I believe everyone should believe whatever they want to believe, live their life the way they want to live. Just giving like my 2 cents on that, and I totally agree with you on that. By the way, when you were talking, I just like Googled blood money because I just wanted to just see.
Okay.
But
What
you're
did it
100%.
say?
It says exactly what you were saying. It says compensate. It says obtained through violent crime or wait, violent crime or compensation paid by an offender. That's interesting. So it's like it's well you mentioned, you're right. Compensation paid by an offender. But then it also says violent crime. So for an example, it can be like drugs. Like if someone's
Sure.
selling drugs.
It doesn't
So
have, yeah, it
yeah,
doesn't have to be rape. But for me, of course, that's what it was. It was a violent crime paid by the offender. So I think
yeah.
I got it right.
No, you're right. You're so I feel like we're technically both right because you're right on that. That is what it says here. And then the violent crime part. I mean, OnlyFans is not a violent crime, but it's also like legally it's not a crime. But
What's, you mean that what you're
the
talking about?
OnlyFans, because people would say
Yeah.
things like, "Oh, OnlyFans money is like blood money or dirty money or whatever," because they make money off of
Violence.
not violence, but like pretty much kind of like digitally like selling their body digitally. Which I actually almost had an OnlyFans star on my podcast because I really wanted to like just understand the mental health. Because remember you were
Hmm.
saying about abuse and how people who are desensitized. Well, I can't talk, but you know what I mean. And so I actually had an OnlyFans person reach out to be on the podcast, and I was so excited to have this guy. And he was like a big one too. He had like a whole management team and everything. Super excited to have him. I was doing my research to, get his questions going, and I found he died. Yeah. I'm from People's Magazine.
Hmm.
I don't know exactly what happened, but I really get so sad and scared that it's like, like couldn't handle the life or whatever. But I
Yeah,
still,
I
yeah.
know you had, I listened to your Chinese friend and you were
Oh,
very
yeah.
concerned about that. And in my book, I'll be very transparent. There is a description of, I called him my work husband, but he was 20 years younger than me. He was the musical theater director and I
Mm-hmm.
was the music director, and he committed suicide. And it's still very, very hard.
Yeah.
And at the same time, a student did the same thing. And I actually had a friend who did it about a month ago. It is a real problem that can, that is very, people are going through
Mm-hmm.
such pain that they can't think about anything else.
Yeah.
And it goes back to some of this trauma. Wouldn't it be great if we at least, we're never going to eliminate it, but
Mm-hmm.
we made it less for children to have to go through
Yeah.
so that they'd have one less thing to have to deal with and not think about killing themselves, but being productive and having a healthy, wonderful life?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think what's also just super, super, super important, and it's a big part of like my backstory, is like being bullied, like severely bullied as a child. I noticed that my niece and nephews, their school, like in elementary school, they have an Instagram, and they'll post things like kindness, are all about kindness, and they have like certain like projects and programs, and they really focus on that. And I don't recall my elementary school ever doing something like
Hmm.
that, but I'm glad that they are because I feel like being kind and knowing how to be kind is like a foreign concept to a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like people have a hard time knowing how to be kind to others. So I think it's so important that they're doing that to, their brains are like,
Their brains are
growing.
developing. So
Yeah.
when their brains are developing, whether you're traumatized or you're exposed to positive feedback, and we call it PACE,
Mhm.
positive and adverse. I talk about it in a book in my chapter about positive and adverse effects of childhood trauma. And
Mhm.
there's actually a list of 10 adverse things and 10 positive things. And we know I'm a good choral director because I have hypervigilance, right? And
Mhm.
I can hear, like, I'm going to go direct a choir. It's 110 adults. I can hear every single one of those voices. And they're like, how can you do that? Well, it's one of my positive.
Mhm.
So I do describe that. So we want the positives. We want those things. I don't think bullying's been around for thousands and thousands of years.
Mhm.
One of the questions that I get asked on other podcasts at the end is, if you have one message, what is that message? And it is for people who are educating themselves about childhood pedophiles and trauma. I ask them to be kind and to have empathy for us, because
Yeah.
not just for us, but anyone with mental illness, the expectations that we're going to react or be feeling the same way a normal person feels in certain situations is ridiculous. We feel it 10 times more.
Mhm.
And if you are not one of those people, having grace and empathy and being kind goes so far.
Mhm.
It does, and it's something that our societies need to embrace. Fortunately, our leadership right now in the United States is not doing that. They're not modeling that
Yeah, they're
kind
doing
of
like the
behavior.
opposite.
Right. So
Complete
we as
opposite.
parents, we as aunties need to model that behavior to
Mhm.
children,
Yeah.
because that's going to, while their brain is growing, it's going to help it grow better and cost us less when they become adults. The financial cost of what it costs to give me the right medicines for my neurological disease, or my
Yeah.
brother who stays in the state mental hospital, or someone who's on Medicare who has to have counseling and
Mhm.
medication to manage their bipolar. All of these things have to be there. They're never going to go away because we know it's a chemical imbalance. But if those brains are growing and we're giving them safe, kind, wonderful environments, it's not going to cost us as much as when they're
Yeah.
adults.
Yeah, and
So,
that's talking about, and I like how you're really really big on
no.
my God, it's being proactive. Being proactive. That's what we're talking about. And I like that because that's what you're mentioning. And like the whole project of kindness thing, that's all being proactive. And you're so right on this with the whole leadership thing. Our country is very reactive, and I don't like that. Very reactive. So like they wait until everything is horrible until they're like, okay, maybe we should think about fixing this. Like for example, like the whole like mental health crisis and just all the horrible things that happen in like let's say robbery or crimes, let's just say crimes period. It's people, I believe that people aren't born like that. Like things happen to them for them to get to
Mhm,
committing something like that. We don't
mhm,
I mean, I'm not obviously condoning that people should not be committing crimes, of course, and they should be punished, like absolutely, but there's no empathy sympathy for like how are these people getting there, you know what
mhm.
I mean?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm substitute teaching for some of the teachers that I was a mentor for when I was teaching full time. In fact, I'm going to go teach band tomorrow. And I have this advisory class I walked into of these eighth grade boys, and the first thing they say to me is, "We're the bad boys." And looked at them and I said, "There aren't bad boys. Who told you you're a bad boy?" "Oh, well, everybody says we're bad boys." I say, "You may make wrong choices sometimes, but
Huh.
you're not bad." But by
Right.
the eighth grade, they already believed they were bad boys.
Yeah, that's a
So
problem.
imagine them growing up in an environment where they felt safe and they didn't have anybody telling them they're bad.
Mm-hmm.
We all
Yeah.
make bad choices.
Yeah.
So, I wish you and I could solve the problems of the world. We can't. But I tried with my book to solve one problem, to educate people. And it's really easy to read, even for bad readers like me.
So funny.
No, it is. People tell me, I can't read. My son's like, I can't read, Mom. Did you know I was dyslexic? And I'm like, well, so was I. So I wrote it just like that.
That's so interesting because My mom said that she's has a hard time focusing on reading lately because she likes always tell her to write a book because she loves like writing grammar and everything. I'm like, why don't you write a book? And she was like, girl, I can't even read a book right now. Like I
That's
can't
that's
focus.
me.
Which
That's
is
me.
that's I'm telling you, I feel like you guys would get along so well. But for time purposes, I ask all of cause I want to get to this. Cause I do ask all of my guests this question. So if your healing journey had a theme song, what would it be?
Well, I'm a musician, so that's a really hard one. But I think I have three songs that come to mind. The first one would be in Frozen, Into
Love
the
Frozen.
Unknown.
Oh, it's such a good one. It makes me
Yeah.
like feel things. Like I love that song.
Yeah, but that's kind of me going into the unknown. My book has one that was written by a very famous choral director, and it's called Earth Song. And I got permission from him to write all of the lyrics in it. And the last one, the one that I've been listening to on the radio, because when I was in college as a music major and I was going to be a teacher, the best advice I ever got was every time you get in the car, listen to your students' music. So I
Hmm.
turn on the top 10. I live in Detroit, right? So I'm listening to the top 10 until I'm 63. And there's a song, I think it's called Bloodline.
Was that
It's
Alex Warren?
yeah, it's about that it doesn't define you. You
I
don't
love
get to,
Alex Warren. Love him.
you can break that bloodline. You can break that circle of abuse and that circle of what is in your
Huh.
blood.
Such a good song.
Yeah, so those are kind of my theme songs right now.
Yeah, no, those make sense, the whole bloodline thing, especially the bloodline part. That one's
Yeah.
good. I love Alex Warren. Do you know his story?
Do I know story?
His story, like his background.
No, I do a little bit, yes. Not too much, but I know a little bit. It's actually pretty similar to most of us musicians. No, I shouldn't say that out there, but we have our backgrounds are kind of dark and people tell us we can't do what we want to do
Mm-hmm.
for a living. Anyways, you can share with your audience if you want about his background.
I mean, just quickly, I guess, about his background is his mother was an alcoholic, pretty much drank herself to death. His dad died of cancer. So it's pretty like tragic, as in like, yeah, his dad died from cancer, and then his alcoholism got worse and worse, and like that's what he grew up in, and he was like abused by her, and then just like his whole like, and then he got like kicked out of his house, and he was like homeless, but then he got TikTok fame, and then now he's a famous musician, and his stuff is so good. I mean, as you know, blah blah.
It is. It comes from the heart. I think the best music writing is coming from the heart. And I just that was my savior. My savior was music, and it
Hmm.
certainly was his as well.
Yeah, honestly, if I can write music, I would do it too. Right now, acting is my like
Well,
my
that's a good.
therapy.
So the name of my book is Piece by Piece,
Hmm.
a memoir of survival resilience and the power of creativity.
Hmm.
Acting, creativity, making a podcast, creativity,
Hmm.
making music, creativity.
Hmm.
So I don't like writing music, but I like making it with other people.
Yeah,
So
that
that's what
totally
I'm
makes
about
sense.
to go do soon.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Cheryl, thank you so much for taking the time to come on my
Thank
podcast.
you. This was so
And
much fun.
I'm glad
So
and
random.
random.
Well, some people like I go on a podcast and it's so
Uh-huh.
perfect. We don't have this kind of discussion. And I
Really?
love having this discussion with you. Your mind is always learning and always wanting to solve the world's problems and not being scared to be you on this podcast. And I
Yeah.
really appreciate that.
Aw, thank you. I really appreciate it. That's so kind of you.